Mr. T back again from sunny Dominican Republic. Thanks for tuning in. In this video we're going to cover 30 plus tips that's going to help you keep the dice in paradise, so to speak, when you come down here either vacationing or to live here. Now, some of these tips were covered in other videos in the past, so it'll be a good recap for you, and there's going to be new tips coming in, so hold on tight. Now, one thing is, if you want super detailed information, then you can also join my online information service called InfoHub. For about 20 bucks, you get access. It's a one-time fee, so check it out or send me an email at info@educatedtraveler.info. But anyway, let's get stuck into it. When you plan to travel down here, there's an e-ticket that you must acquire, which is free. An online registration form you have to fill out to travel into Dominican Republic, as well as when you depart to go out. And you can find the link in the description below this video. Now, since 2023, when you board the plane, you must be able to show a return ticket or an ongoing ticket when traveling into Dominican Republic. If you're a resident, then you show your resident card and then in you go. Now, there is ways around this. If you reach out to me for consultancy at info@educatedtraveler.info, I can coach you on more options there. Now, some people get excited and overstay their 30-day legal period down here, but the government actually has a chart which shows you've stayed over so many days, so many months, and after you pass through the check-in, you have to approach the immigration booth and pay a fine for that time that you overstayed. Now, your departure tax for now is $20, and it's always built into the ticket price itself. A good suggestion is your bags, tag them with different ribbons or something really unique that stands out, so one, you're not in doubt which is your bag on the carousel when you go to pick up checked-in luggage. And secondly, other people won't mistakenly take your luggage, which can cause a lot of issues, as you probably already know. So tag it really uniquely. I just want to share a story that I recently heard. A couple who are both clients, really good people, when they came in here with the mother from Canada. They went to the carousel. They had gotten there slowly because she was a senior citizen. They picked up 4 bags, not realizing at the time that one of those bags weren't actually theirs, and the one that was theirs was missing. So when they realized this, they returned the bag. They hadn't touched locks or anything, and everything seemed fine until the gentleman needed to fly out again, and then he got arrested, accused of having tried to smuggle 40 pounds of marijuana. So you can get yourself into a lot of trouble if you don't get the bag thing right. Lucky for him, I don't know if it's luck or money or a combination of both, had a good lawyer he got from the other end of the country, so it wasn't somebody that knew the lawyers up this end, and within a day or two they got it all sorted out because there was no video proof of the bag being opened or these so-called bags of drugs, etc. But you got to be very careful. There's foreigners sitting in jail as we speak based on setups like that. And straight away a lawyer was allocated to him that he didn't really want, who tried to squeeze him for a lot of money. I think it was about $15,000 this lawyer wanted, and he rejected that lawyer and got his own lawyer, which was smart, and got out of the pickle. So be careful on that. When it comes to getting from the airport to the nearby towns, example, if you land in Puerto Plata, you want to get to Sosua, you can take a taxi. That's about $25 right now, or you could walk to the highway if you want to do it on the cheapy, and there you have what's called taxi públicos. They look like a normal sedan but with people crammed into it, and there's a little taxi thing on the roof, so you should be able to recognize it, and that should be about 60 to 80 pesos to get into Sosua. And that's the same price if you jump in the minivans called guaguas, or you could haul down a motoconcho. They come past, or they're positioned out there as well, and you just have to haggle. That could be maybe a couple of hundred or 300 pesos to get into town, but you get there fast. So there's some options, folks. When it comes to accommodation, I often get emails from folks asking, what do you recommend, Mr. T? Or that's just too vague, because it very much comes down to budget. If you want a budget hotel, you can get something for $25 a night to $60 a night. Then there's accommodation to $100, $150 a night. So it really just depends on your purse string. Do you want a villa? Do you want a condominium? What area do you want to be in? Cabaretta, Sosua, and within those areas, what suburb? So the best thing I can recommend is join my InfoHub service. Look in the description of this video. And as I mentioned earlier, for $20 one-time joining fee, you're in this system with lots of contacts, information, and resources at your fingertips. Check it out. Now, folks sometimes ask me online, do I need to bring a lot of money down or cash? Well, it kind of depends on what your plans are. If you're putting a deposit on something down here or need extra cash for that, yeah, then you need to bring more. But a few hundred I would at least, and a couple of working cards, because I've seen folks get desperate when their bank for some crazy reason blocked their card and said you need to come back to your respective country to get it resolved, and then they're running out of cash. So don't leave yourself short either. Now when it comes to changing dollars into pesos, I'll change $50 to $100 at the airport, and then when you get into town, find a good exchange rate at a money exchange place and change maybe a couple of $100. And when it comes to carrying money around, well, if you have 2,000 to 4,000 pesos maximum on you when you are walking around, maybe in a money belt, etc., that should be enough. Most meals are between 200 and 800 pesos in that vicinity, so you don't need to carry a whole lot of cash around when you're just vacationing here. Now if you wish to acquire a DR number down here because you don't want the hefty roaming fees from your home country, which might be alright for 2 or 3 days, but if you're down here for an extended period, then you can go into, say, the Altice or Claro office, and for about 250 pesos at the moment you can get a little SIM card which they can clip to fit into your telephone, as long as it's an unlocked telephone. And then it's just, do you want to have data with that or not? But that way you can be contactable and hook up on WhatsApp, etc. through that, and that's a better way to go usually. Alright, folks wonder, what about Wi-Fi down here? Well, there's many public places that has Wi-Fi, so you get the password, log into their Wi-Fi channel, and then boom, in goes the password and off you go. And don't expect it to be fast, but for checking a few things it works. Anyway, the other way is you walk into some of the companies like Altice or Claro and you buy a device for about $60, and then you can go in the countryside, you can go on trips around the country, and you always have Wi-Fi that way. Also through Altice and Claro you can get data plans with your telephone plan, and that way you have Wi-Fi wherever you go. If you're living down here longer term, then you can get an antenna on your place with a line of sight to a tower, and that way you have good Wi-Fi and you basically get the speed you pay for, upload and download. So I hope that helps. Alright, a quick one about drones. If your drone is under 2 kilograms, you want to fly it down here, that's fine. However, you will meet certain restrictive zones you will see in your screen. Certain ones you can obtain an access or license to fly in. Others are highly restricted, like if you're within, I think it's 6 or 8 kilometers from an airport and you want to get in the vicinity of that, it'll block you from flying there. If your drone's over 2 kilograms, you got to obtain a license. We'll try to put as much information in the description as possible for you to learn more about that. Now, prior to taking off on your vacation, it may pay to get some travel insurance to cover everything that you want to be covered for. However, if you're staying down here long term, then most expats go to a local broker and get quotes. There's an insurance broker in the Coldwell Banker building in Sosua called Amber Seguros Insurance Brokers, and they'll be happy to give you a quote for anything that you need. And insurances are quite reasonable if you consider the prices compared to what you see overseas. So I'll put some details in the description for you. Alright, we move on. Now if you're wondering how you're going to go about visiting down here because of your Spanish, or maybe you don't speak any, well, you don't have to worry. A lot of these tourist areas are full of people who speak either a little or a lot of English. Now I'm talking about the locals here. A lot of the restaurants and cafes have folks in them that can actually speak English. So get down here and enjoy yourself, and don't worry, every expat you'll meet, which is other foreigners who's lived here for a while, they'll be more than happy to help you. When it comes to your driver's license, it's actually valid, your overseas one, for 30 days of your legal stay. After that, you may need to use something else to get you around. Or if you are a resident, you can go into Intrant, which is where you take the driver's license in Dominican Republic, and you can find more information in my InfoHub service. When it comes to transporting yourself around, the options are very simple. Well, you've got the taxi público, which is like the little sedans where people cram into. You got the guagua, same thing. And between most towns, that's about, right now, 60 pesos. Then you've got the motoconcho, which you often use in and around town. And not the young guys on motorbikes driving alone, they're not safe, but I've never actually, in many years here, seen an accident with a moto taxi guy with a passenger on it, which is a good thing. So they get very used to driving in the traffic down here. So it's much safer than you think. And then, of course, you could take a taxi to get from here to there, but they know how to charge as well. So often traveling with a few other people, that's a cheaper option. You can rent a car. If you do, don't leave your passport with them. Never leave your passport with anybody. They can get a copy, but no passport left there, or they'll hold that against you if you have an accident and you can't fly out of the country, etc. Then we've got renting a motorbike or scooter. Make sure you're very experienced, and there's other videos in my channel that teaches you all the things you need to know about driving down here. I don't care if you're the world champion at motocross, you need to watch that video, because it doesn't teach you the stupid things that some of the other drivers do. That video will. Okay, and then if you do get an ATV, try to stick on 4 wheels, not drive around corners on 2 wheels. And of course, if you want to take a helicopter or plane, you can contact me. I have the contacts. But when you're driving down here, it can get very dangerous and annoying to have high beams constantly in your eyes. But there is a solution to this. Whatever transportation device you're driving, make sure you have high beams on your bike or your car, because that's the only way to get them to lower it. So you just flick it on for a moment and then down again, see if they'll lower theirs. If not, give them the same medicine they're giving you, high beam, until they lower it. And it's very important that you can see where you're driving. I've come along highways and there's a big compactor that comes rolling along with no lights on it, or there's people walking in the roadside with no reflectors, or there's a motorbike with 3, 4, 5 people on it, and if you can't see them because you're being blinded by high beams and you hit them, you're going to be in a lot of trouble and expense. So make sure you have the high beam on, alright, and sort that one out. Alright, let's talk about emergencies. There's different hospitals down here. Some are public hospitals, some are private hospitals or clinics. The one I've always found does a great job for reasonable money is Bornegal in Puerto Plata. And they do take people in who've got true emergencies and value life over money. Where I've seen others that don't do that, they'll literally let people bleed on the doorsteps until they're sure they're going to get paid. So, yeah, as I said, I can highly recommend Bornegal. They're used to dealing with Dominicans all the time, so the prices are geared basically towards anybody who walks in the same way, and that's how you want it. There's a 911 number that you can call in case you see an accident or you're part of an accident. However, you have to be able to speak decent Spanish for them to understand who you are, what's happened, where you are, etc. So maybe have somebody else call for you if you don't speak good Spanish. Now let's say you are at an accident scene or you are in an accident and you know this has to be fixed fast. Well, calling the ambulance may feel good, but they could take half an hour to get there sometimes, and people ain't always that respectful of letting ambulances through. So unless it's something where the neck could be broken or something, if it's limbs, then sometimes it's just better to get the person in a vehicle and get them off to the hospital and get it dealt with. Now, one good thing to know down here is you can get pretty much everything over the counter in the pharmacies, and most of them are pretty well stocked up. There is situations though, if it's real heavy duty kind of drugs, that you need a doctor's prescription, but I would say in most cases you can get it sold to you right there over the counter. Next tip is, if you're heading out to somewhere really remote, some beautiful secluded beaches or bush tracks, organize some kind of weapons to have with you. Preferably weapons that you can justify if you are met by police, that, well, I just brought the machete to clear the bush and to build the fire, you know. But it's important, if a couple of scumbags come out of a bush somewhere, that you have something you can just swing around and send a signal. You come here and mess with the bull, you're going to get the horns. Down here, if you're in the public eye, you're normally as safe as a holy cow is walking in the streets of India. So anywhere where you're in public space, nobody tries to do anything. And any kind of theft on this island is usually just opportunity theft to get stuff or money. There's not a lot of people here who want to harm anybody, which is a good thing, but sometimes it does happen if people refuse to give over their stuff, where they won't even try if you have something that could be dangerous to them. Then they just pick somebody else or move on, which is good for you. Now, another thing is, what should you carry around on you? Well, if you're going swimming, sometimes you can find a locker down at the beach. So maybe only just bring enough for what you need on that little excursion away from your hotel room, and that could be for your lunch and drinks, etc. But don't bring too much with you, and then see if you can lock it up. Don't just leave it on the beach. Somebody will make it wander. Alright, the other thing is, if you're just walking around town in one of these beach towns, tourist areas, look after your stuff. A lot of the folks that's lost their wallets, etc., walk around with sort of baggy pants with big pockets. Sometimes they're even silly enough to have a cell phone or a wallet in the back of their pants. The pickpocketers down here are some of the world's best. So when I walk, especially at night, through town, I have my hand in the pocket on my wallet, and I've got my other hand resting on a little holster I have with my cell phone in it. And if somebody tries to reach out for me, I move my body and say, no, no, no touchy touchy. You gotta send a signal. I'm aware of you and I'm not gonna let you get to my stuff. And often they work in teams of two, especially the single men have tried this one, where a lady will come up and try to give him a hug and get his hands up in the air while the other one grabs stuff out of his pocket. So they are very sly. Be very careful. Consistently aware of what's going on around you. Don't leave your cell phone on a bar top or other stuff, sunglasses, etc. The moment you look away, boom, it's gone. Alright, let's talk about dining out. We can start with the cheaper end first. If you want good value for money, all you need to do is keep an eye out for where the Dominicans eat. They don't want to pay high prices or tourist prices every time they got to fill their tummy. No, they are calling into what's called comedors, and they're usually serving a range of Dominican food, but primarily different types of rice, chicken, beef, pork, and a meal can cost you 200 to 300 pesos usually, and then you pay for your drinks on top of that. So that's the way to go if you want to go cheapy. Don't expect anything fancy in terms of seating or service in these places. It can even seem a bit competitive when you're in there, but it works. Now the next thing you can do is dine in restaurants that you're kind of used to if you go on vacation anywhere else, where you get table service, the tablecloth, a nice waiter or waitress, music, Wi-Fi, all the bells and whistles there, and you're probably paying anywhere from 300 to 1500 for your meals, depending on whether it's just a club sandwich or whether you want a lobster dinner. So on top of that, you may have to pay taxes and drinks, etc. When it comes to paying taxes on food, look at the bottom of the menu as soon as you check out the menu, and it'll usually tell you whether taxes are included as well as service tips, etc. So if it's not written there, ask the waiter or waitress, do these prices include taxes? Just so you're clear about it, because sometimes people get quite a surprise when the bill comes. Now make sure you only drink bottled water down here. You can brush your teeth in the tap water, have a shower in it, but don't drink it. And don't worry about the ice. The ice comes from factories with good water used, and the ice that they serve in the restaurants are either from those factories or from bags that come from bottled water. So you're good on that one. When it comes to eating, be careful of cold salads. The food hygiene here is not always what you find overseas. So it's not unusual that a chef will take the same knife he used to cut some meat and then wipe it with a cloth and start, a dirty cloth, and start cutting the salads with it. And then you end up getting that all pretty on your plate, but it's got some germs in it that you don't want in your tummy. So stick with cooked food or fried stuff and you'll be alright. Okay, folks ask me, what about tipping down there? Who do you tip? How much? Well, if you go to a cafe just to have a cup of coffee, there's nothing wrong leaving a few coins, like 30 to 50 pesos as a tip. If you've been sitting in a restaurant for an hour and a half, maybe 100, 150 pesos. That's the norm down here, and they usually smile and are very appreciative of that. And often it just goes in a shared pottle between the restaurant staff, and they share the tips at the end of the day. Now, who should you tip? Well, restaurant staff, as I said. I would also tip people who provide any kind of service. If somebody pushes me 2 kilometers to a gas station, give them a little bit. This is not a welfare country, so make sure you put a little bit of money out here and there, and they'll bend backwards to help you. Then we've got the gasoline station. Now they've got a lot of customers coming through within even an hour, so you don't need to tip big time there. It could be 10 or 25 pesos that you leave for the gentleman who's putting gasoline in. Maybe a little bit more if he washes your windscreens, but don't over tip either. One thing I've been asked a lot is it safe to leave my money in a safe deposit box in a hotel or a resort? Well, I think it very much depends on which hotel you're talking about. Most of them, with a big administration team, etc., have very strict rules and security around people's possessions. They have a spare key and all that in case you lost yours, so they have to be able to get in there and obtain your passport for you if you had lost the key. But I'm just one of those guys, when I'm traveling, I like to have my stuff tightly against my body in a little zip locker thing, and then people have to try to take me down to get the stuff off me. But different strokes for different folks. But definitely research whether there's any bad reviews about that hotel when it comes to that kind of stuff. If you find yourself getting into disputes down here, especially over money, just stop for a second and think about what kind of dollars are involved. If you find it's only a few dollars, well, maybe just lose that battle, win the war, and move on. Because they don't mind wasting 2 hours to get that extra 100 or 200 pesos. But the big question is, do you have time for that? Also, if you have a lot of cash in your wallet or your purse, don't show it off to people and feel good about yourself or any kind of ego shit like that. It's better to actually hide it. You know, if you're taking money out, or turn around and then fish the money out. Don't let people see you have a big stash of cash, because when they see it, they want it. When they want it, they come for it. Another thing is, don't wear a lot of bling, meaning expensive jewelry, Rolex watches, and show off that you have wealth. This is the wrong country down here, because basically we have two types of people, the haves and the have-nots. And the have-nots want what the haves have, and they have all sorts of conniving ways of spying on you and finding out things about you, where you live or where you move and go, and then one time they may just strike, and that's the one that you don't want. Now, one thing you definitely don't want to do when you're down here is to get physical, unless it's a situation where you definitely have to defend yourself. Because the mentality here is not to run away and scatter. No, the mentality is for everybody to come running to the situation. And if there's any reason why they don't like you, you may have a pile of people come on top of you before you know it. You know, cockfighting down here is a popular sport, so a little bit of action, they like that. So if you have an issue, just get on your phone and call the cops. It actually says on their vehicles down here, tourist protection. So you may have to ask for some. It's better they sort it out than you. Now, a big one is, don't tell people where you're staying. Or if you're living down here, don't tell them where you live. And what should you say? Because they're very nosy. Oh, where do you live? And let's say you say, I'm in Sosua. What about you? Yeah, in Sosua. So well, where in Sosua? Well, 6 months. That's how long I normally like to get to know people, Freddie, before I share that kind of information. Because crap happens, and it's maybe not you that would do something, but it could be somebody you accidentally just told it to. So if you don't mind, I'll be the judge of when I share that information, and then I might invite you for a coffee. Sound good? So you got to handle that one. If you're a lady, especially, you don't want to tell people where you're staying. Or if you're taking a motor concho, get dropped off like 50 meters from there, and when the motor concho's left, you walk back to your hotel. Alright, the next lesson is about romantic encounters. Don't give your number out to folks unless you really want to communicate with them, you want to hear from them a lot. Because a lot of the folks down here, they will abuse your number, and you'll get like a tidal wave of messages or phone calls straight out the gate. And if you don't answer straight away, then they start getting a bit aggressive and say, hey, you haven't answered, I've been trying to contact you. So really choose who you give it out to, and maybe just say to them, look, I'll grab your number, and when I'm ready to meet, I'll give you a call. I just don't want to get overwhelmed with a whole lot of messages and phone calls from different people because I'm on vacation. Now, another thing that might happen is you're sitting in a bar and you get approached a lot, and they want you to buy them a drink, one after the next after the next. So you just use a technique where you say, listen, sweetheart, you seem lovely, but I've been asked a lot here, buy me a drink, buy me a drink, buy me a drink. So if you buy the first one, I'm going to get the second one. How does that sound? And a lot of them will just turn on their heels and walk away. And then you know it's all about what they could get out of you for themselves. Well, let's say you've been hanging out with some Caribbean beauty and you really want to go somewhere private. For that first encounter, make sure you don't go to your hotel. Because if there's anything that goes wrong, or they cause a drama, I've seen some really bad situations where they come around with friends and try to kick the doors in, or there's police involved. So just take them to a different hotel and make sure their ID is handed in prior to you entering, and that they have to prove that everything's okay before they leave to get their ID back. That's how things go smoothest. And then during such a hotel visit, make sure your stuff's with you all of the time. So don't go and have a shower, close the door to the bathroom and leave all your valuables out there with a stranger. All right, not very smart. A lot of folks have come back out from the shower and all their stuff is gone and the person's gone. One thing to be very careful of down here is that you don't go away with an underage person. Maybe, okay, you're single, you want to have some fun, hang out with some cool people, but check their IDs. And sometimes they hand you an ID that's a cousin or somebody who looks a little bit like them, who's 18 or 19 or more, but it's not them. And that's when you're going to challenge them and just say, no, that's not even you. If in doubt, ask for a second ID, even if you're convinced that might be them on the first ID. There's nothing wrong to ask for 2 IDs. It's better to hang out with somebody who's of legal age and stay safe than getting extorted by police who's made a deal with one of these underage people, and they take you to an ATM, want 20 or 30,000 pesos out of you, or they're going to lock you up for 3 years or more in jail for being with that youngster. There's all sorts of tricks here, so take the advice, stay on the safe side. Alright, some people have asked me, how do you figure out who to hang out with and who not to hang out with, who's safe and who's going to scam you and who's not? Well, a little technique is the rejection test, because everybody who's going to approach you is after something, or they want to sell something, a service or product. So the best thing you can do is say no and watch their reaction. And if they handle it politely and say, no problem, anytime you need anything, here's my number, that's the person you may just say, well, actually, there might be one thing. Have a seat. Let me buy you a drink. And then you get to know this guy or this lady, and often because they had that initial super positive, good service-oriented reaction or behavior towards you, they turn out to be very nice people. The ones that instantly get aggressive and say, why not? Or they keep pushing and pushing, there's usually trouble following them everywhere. So then you know to stay away from that kind of person. When it comes to handling what we call hustlers down here, people who don't actually have a specific service except anything and everything that you need to find or get, they'll get for you. So you have to be very careful. If you don't want to hang out with those people, you don't want anything from them, make sure you just wave your finger and say, no gracias. Okay, be polite, but no gracias. And if they keep coming, you say, escucha. That means listen, no gracias. And then you may have to lift your voice if they don't respect that and say respecta. All right, but once you're dealing with children, they come up, rub their tummies and hold their hands out. Give them food or drinks if you're going to give them anything. Don't give them money, because quite often it ends up being used for other things that they shouldn't be using it for. And you know, they're turning into the next hustler that's going to be hanging out on the street for many years to come. So you're not helping their future by paying them for that. It's better to coach them, all right? Teach them. Get some shoe polishing kit. Do a service for the money. You can do it. Okay, so give them some coaching. If it's adults, you got to put your boundaries in place and be strong with them, because they just see you as one more tourist coming along. Well, one thing's for sure. If you are a sucker the first time giving away money, not only will that person keep coming back and back and back, but they'll tell other people. And yeah, once a sucker, always a sucker. So be firm, put your boundaries in place, but keep it polite. Now, police might try to hustle you as well. It happened to me. I was on my motorbike, parked, and they pulled up next to me and started tapping the tank and let me know how empty it sounded, and can you put 500 pesos in our tank? Then I tapped my tank and I said, mine sounds even more empty than yours. How about you do it this time and I do it for you next time? Then he just started the motorbike and drove off. Never saw them again. When it comes to helping people down here, just know they are by nature very helpful. And many are happy to help without taking anything. The further away from the tourist areas you get, the more genuine they get. But if you are in doubt, then ask them, okay, you want to help? How much do you expect for this? You're expecting money? And if you say, well, give me 500 pesos, whatever, then you may choose not to get that help. And you say, no, gracias. Okay, I don't need your help. I'm good. Thank you, though. All right, let him go. But if it's just 20 to 50 pesos and they're going to make your situation a lot easier, like if you run out of petrol 2 kilometers from a petrol station, I don't mind giving 50 pesos for somebody helpful to push me and strain their leg for 2 kilometers to a petrol station, so I don't have to walk out there in the sun in the boiling heat with a motorbike. So yeah, be ready to pay a little bit here and a little bit there. Don't be too tight down here. Spread the shillings around a little bit and you get a lot of help. Now in many countries you have Craigslist, you have Yellow Pages, and if you find a supply out of those, well, they're usually qualified and do a decent job to a good job, and you have them under legal obligation if they don't do a good job. But down here, that's not the case. It's not so regulated and you don't have so much of a comeback if they screw you over. So it's very important to have the right contacts. And that's what I specialize in for the Sosua, Cabaretta area especially, and even Puerto Plata. So you can join InfoHub for about $20, like I said earlier, and then arm yourself with good contacts so you can speed up the process of settling in, and you save time, effort, hassle, and money. So look in the description for that one. One thing that'll definitely get tested down here is your patience and your tolerance for people. They're not used to that fast-paced society where, you know, you better be here on time or you're fired kind of thing. They're extremely forgiving of each other's shortcomings. You're going to hear a lot of excuses as well. And, you know, they buy each other's excuses and then they give each other a hug and move on with life, and they're still amigos. Where in other countries we often break off relationships if we feel that somebody screwed us around or let us down. But down here, it's about finding out who naturally appreciates you being there and paying money and giving you a good service, then come back there. If you find places that they haven't got it, give them maybe a small tip only and then move on. Don't go back there. And that way you'll keep your stress level down. But there will be letdowns and there will be situations where you'll get your patience tested. But that's all part of the adventure. Enjoy.